Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to 2019 and the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here in Hollywood, California. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining us here in this, the first show of 2019. And, of course, what better way to kick off the year than to be joined by the one, the only, the great Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
I am good. You know, it's crazy we're now living in the year that Blade Runner takes place in.
Oh, is that true?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
It's Blade Runner takes place in 2019, dude.
I didn't even realize that. That is crazy. How was your new year, by the way?
My new year was good. I haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse yet.
You and I came in here today, and the first thing I go to you is, so you've seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse now, finally. What did you think?
I read the script. You know, they released the script online, and I couldn't help myself. I read the script. It's great. Like, I'm like, I wish I didn't read the script. I didn't, because I was gonna lie on my own little chat. I was gonna lie. People kept hammering me
about seeing Spider-Man and Spider-Verse,
and I couldn't lie. I couldn't.
Well,
lie.
We officially start off 2019 with you disappointing all of us, Robert.
Oh,
Way to go.
God. Well, that means I can only go up.
It can only go up from here.
Up.
Hey, listen, guys, last night was the Golden Globes because those are stupid. We're not even going to talk about those. So, listen, guys, we got a bunch of things we're going to talk about here today, and we're going to do that by taking it from you guys. You guys are the ones who determine what we talk about here on this show. How do you submit a topic or question to be a part of the John Campea Show? It's really simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Make sure you guys put that word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less, or else I wouldn't even be able to fit it on the screen, even if I wanted to. So with that being said, let's get to the first email today from our good friend Vince Bennett, who writes, "Hey, John, hope you had a great holiday vacation, but I'm glad you guys are back. We're glad to be back too, Vince. Aquaman is now officially the highest grossing DCEU movie. It even looks like it's going to be the first one to join the $1 billion club. My question is, what do you attribute this huge success to?" Robert, even going into the holiday season, first of all, let me back up here. I was telling you this off camera before the show started.
Yes.
2018 was actually probably the most accurate box office prediction year I've ever had. Like, I nailed almost everything except for two very big gleaming misses I had. One was, of course, Venom.
Right.
First of all, I predicted Venom and Aquaman would both be successful. But I also said I didn't think Venom would hit 800 million. And it did.
And it went over.
Back in June, I said Aquaman will potentially cap at around 700 million. That's its cap. I said it won't hit 800 million. It certainly won't hit $1 billion. Well, guess what? It passed 800 million. It's now the highest grossing DCU movie of all time. And it's just a foregone conclusion now that at some point, probably later this week, it will become the first DCU movie to hit that $1 billion mark, which I'm thrilled for. I mean, that's great. Wonderful. Now, just to put this in perspective for you guys, how does Aquaman compare to the overall DCEU and how big of a hits they've been and how they've done at the box office? Well, as Vince said, it's now actually the highest grossing DC. Now, some people might want to say, whoa, wait, what about the Dark Knight and all that kind of stuff? Remember, Dark Knight Rises were not DCEU movies. So these are DCEU movies. Aquaman is now the highest grossing one of all time. Number 6 was Justice League. Of course, the one that should have been a $2 billion film, made $657 million. Man of Steel, best movie in the DCU, in my opinion. I love that movie. $668 million. Suicide Squad, $746 million. Wonder Woman made $821 million. Batman vs. Superman made $873. And now Aquaman, as of today, $940 million, the highest grossing movie in the DCEU of all time.
Yeah.
Well on its way to hitting $1 billion now. So that's a foregone conclusion. That's absolutely going to happen. So, Robert, when you look at these results for Aquaman, why did Aquaman become the biggest? Because I don't think either you or I think it's the best DCEU movie, but it is now easily the most successful one. What do you attribute that to?
Well, if I had to guess, the movie is just goofy fun. And I think of all the DCEU movies, the playability for families, for kids. I mean, you take kids to see Man of Steel. You and I, we love Man of Steel. I love Man of Steel. But you take small children, like 5-year-olds,
right,
10-year, even 10-year-olds, 8-year-olds, whatever. Man of Steel's, it's rough, man.
A little heavy.
It's a little heavy. Now, Aquaman is like goofy, just over the top, balls to wall, fun and mirth-filled action under the sea.
Right.
You know, and I think parents are going to go to that movie and be like, boy, I hate to say this, but it's really wholesome entertainment. I mean, it's wholesome action adventure, swashbuckling, sci-fi, undersea.
Nothing wholesome about Amber Heard. I just want to point that out. Nothing wholesome about Amber Heard in a skin-tight green underwater outfit. Just going to say that.
Perhaps not, but they don't even have really any. There's no like innuendo banter.
No, not really. Not really.
It's really earnest. And who's seen a movie like that in a long time? And I think it bodes well for Shazam. I mean, if Shazam is
very much so.
That kind of a film, you know, it's interesting. I just said to you, I don't see the world of Atlantis as depicted in Aquaman existing on the same planet Earth that Man of Steel took place.
No way.
You know, and tonally, whereas the MCU made me believe that Asgard and Iron Man and Captain America and, you know, Thor could exist together, I don't believe that Aquaman could exist in the rest of the DC universe. But I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
Does it?
No, I agree with you. And look, I'll tell you what, I see two major factors into what made this. Because, look, it is not the best critically received of all the DC movies, although it is positively received, which is great. It's also not even the best audience received movie, although a lot of the audience liked it. Like, I took my family. I took my mom, my two sisters, my brother. I took Ray. I took Ann. My brother-in-law. I took them all to go see.
What's
Aquaman,
your mom
right?
think?
My mom liked it. She didn't love it, though. She didn't love it.
Right, okay.
And actually, it's funny because my family was actually a little bit split on it. Like my brother came out and goes, "Well, that was a movie," but I think one of my sisters really liked it at the same time. But I attribute this to two things. Thing number one that I attributed this to is something that I actually criticized, and we've talked about this a little bit on the Weekly Hero. A year ago, I was criticizing Warner Brothers and the DCEU for not having another film for a full year.
Right.
Remember that? It's like, wait a minute, we're going to get to December before we finally get. Yeah. We're going to have 3 Marvel movies come out before a DCU movie. What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. And a lot of us criticize them for that. But you know what? And we started to pick up on this about a month or so ago. That may have been the most brilliant move they have ever made. Because by giving that much time, you know, out of sight, out of mind a little bit, the bad taste for some people of Justice League, whatever, that faded into distant memory. And a lot of people just forgot about a lot of that stuff. And a lot of the negativity was allowed to just sort of fade out before that came out. And so what were you left with? When Aquaman's coming out, now all you've got left to talk about is James Wan's directing it. Jason Momoa looks great. And no one's talking about Justice League. You notice that when we were talking about Aquaman leading into this film, nobody was talking about Justice League or what did or didn't happen because they made the brilliant move of putting it off a year that a lot of people like me criticized them for initially. But the second and maybe the biggest reason for this is simply this. The reason Aquaman is such a big hit, it was a phenomenal marketing campaign.
Yes.
Absolutely phenomenal marketing campaign. You know, going all the way back to Comic-Con. You and I were both at Comic-Con and they dropped that trailer. And I remember saying, this was, look, I loved the Godzilla trailer. I loved the Shazam trailer. I loved the Glass trailer. We're going to talk about Glass a little bit later. But to me, bar none, that Aquaman trailer won Comic-Con to me. And they just crushed it every step of the way ever since. And then they put out that 5-minute trailer.
Yeah, I think that's what really sent it over the top.
Really?
Because people got to really get a taste. Even with the Comic-Con trailer, I didn't get a taste of show me more. Like, you know.
But it was a first trailer.
Right. But that 5 minutes, I'm like, wow, they are going for it. I mean, they were all in. They're playing some Texas Hold'em, and they were all in.
Yeah.
And they showed their cards, which meant they knew what they had. I mean, and you know, the audiences have been divided on this. I mean, my hardcore genre fan friends some of them they really don't like the goofy fun of Aquaman at all. Others, like myself, I mean, look, I buy into it just like I'm going to buy into Godzilla King of the Monsters. I'm in. But not a lot of people, because they want that serious Man of Steel vibe. And they didn't
Some
get
people
that.
do.
Some people do,
yeah. Well, you know, the funny thing is, too, you look at these two films that we were just talking about, Aquaman, Venom. Both films that embraced the identity of what they were, but also embraced the goofy fun. Some people think goofy fun's easy. It is not. How many movies have we seen where the filmmakers try to do goofy fun and it just comes across as lame and stupid, right? for the filmmakers behind Venom and Aquaman to go for goofy fun, but succeed at it to the point that audiences are enjoying it. They're going back multiple times. They're bringing some people out to see it with them. That's not an easy thing to accomplish.
No.
And I think there are some people who are not filmmakers that look and say, oh, goofy fun. Oh, that's easy. Anybody can do that. And it's not easy to do. It's difficult. And these are two films that did it, and they have reaped the rewards. Just how high over $1 billion now is now it's not even a question. Forget what I said a few months ago about this movie will never hit $1 billion. That's foregone conclusion, dead wrong. Now the only question is how much over $1 billion is this going to get? And like you said before, Robert, if nothing else, this bodes very well for the Shazam. Not that we're predicting Shazam will be $1 billion film too.
No. But I mean, I think that the DC universe now has a bunch of newfound fans, parents, all kinds of people that were probably put off by even Justice League, just like we all were. But I think Shazam's going to be embraced. This was a brilliant play to make Shazam follow up Aquaman.
I agree.
And they're gonna win on that.
And I'm sure there's still lots to talk about with the success of Aquaman, but for now, let's move on to our next topic, Robert.
All right. Well, our next topic comes from Nicolas Cage. Hey,
Nicolas Cage?
Hey, John. Chaos Walking is the new Doug Liman movie starring Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley with a $125 million budget. And since the movie's coming out in less than 2 months, why haven't we seen any marketing yet? Should we be worried?
Ooh, it's funny. I just talked about a little bit of out of sight, out of mind, right? I had totally forgotten about this film.
I did too. And I like Lyman's last movie, American Made, the Tom Cruise movie. I really liked that a lot.
I thought that was a really good. I thought it was an underrated movie, especially coming out of Narcos, watching Narcos on TV, then going in and watching that, and then you figure out the connection between Narcos and the show.
It was
and
great.
The movie. Oh, it was really good. I like Doug Liman a lot. As a matter of fact, if you're like, wait, Doug Liman, he's not a household name like a Christopher Nolan or a Peter Jackson,
but he's got a pretty great filmography.
Well, I mean, take a look at this. Here's some of the notable films. Like we just talked about American Made, right? But he's the guy who did Edge of Tomorrow, which is one of the worst marketed films in history, but a bloody great movie. Amazing. He did Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which not a lot of people talk about. That movie, if you've never seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith, go watch Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And then, of course, he kicked off Bourne Identity, as well as a couple of other ones as well.
Well, he made Swingers.
Yeah,
that was his debut movie. And he made Go with Timothy Olyphant.
Yes, he did.
And those are great films. I mean, and look, I love Edge of Tomorrow, and it made no. I mean,
it did better. It had some legs. It ended up doing okay, but it did not make the money it deserved to make.
It's the ultimate movie about gamers. I would have thought that it would have been the ultimate sci-fi film
if they had marketed it better.
Right,
it could have been a huge hit.
Well, I've got the Japanese steelbook, Blu-ray steelbook that under its original title, All You Need Is Kill.
I love that.
Which I love.
Totally should have left the title as that.
I know.
By the way, Doug Liman also was my director in the movie that I starred in, and Hayden Christensen was my co-star, Jumper. I'm in a couple of different scenes in Jumper.
I kind of like Jumper. I mean,
Jumper.
I didn't know that.
You know what I equate Jumper with? Because they shot a lot of it in Toronto. You know what I equate Jumper with? I equate Jumper a lot with Underworld, a movie that wasn't bad, but the potential they set up, it didn't live up to their own inherent potential.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I felt about Jumper. But at any rate, so Doug Liman's got this movie coming, Chaos Walking. Tom Holland, Spider-Man. You got Daisy Ridley, Ray, in there, right? Now, I don't. It's based on a novel. I don't know much about the novel. Apparently, it's on this inhabited world that we went and settled at some point in the future, and it's all men, and everybody can hear each other's thoughts, and it becomes like this noise that drives people mad. Until Tom Holland comes across a girl, Daisy Ridley, who can filter it all out or something. I don't know much about it. But at any rate, the first still for it came out, and fact checker Jonathan's got the picture up here. The first still image came out. Look, Doug Liman directing, Tom Holland starring, Daisy Ridley starring. Sounds good. We are now 2 months away from this movie coming out and no trailer. Now, let me say this. You asked the question, should we be worried? I've never understood the question about such and such trailer isn't out yet. Should we be worried? Worried about what?
Yeah.
The best trailers are usually to the worst movies. Just because they haven't put a trailer out says nothing about whether the movie is good or bad.
Right.
Because the best trailers are usually to the absolute worst movies. So I wouldn't worry about that. But if you're asking, should we be worried as in, is this thing going to release? Or at least release on time? I got to tell you what, I'm the type of guy who believes they should shorten trailer windows, but not 2 months.
Right.
Not for property nobody's ever really heard of before. And I'll tell you this, should we be worried about the quality? No. But as somebody who's kind of looking forward to this movie, I am a little worried it's going to miss its release date because I don't see how you don't already have started the marketing when the movie's coming out in 2 months.
Yeah, I don't either. But look, like we talked about the Murderer's Row of films that was coming out. Maybe they were just waiting until all of that was cleared away.
That's waiting pretty late in the game.
It is, but if it's a great trailer and they drop the trailer, look, people will start watching and talking. You can change that conversation tomorrow.
True.
And if it's good, I mean, now everyone's waiting. People are surprised at the success of Adam Robitel's Escape Room this weekend.
Yeah.
And I've known Adam for years. We worked together on Superman Returns, and I love seeing that success. But nobody expected that either. It doubled what they were projecting. I think if Chaos, look, I love the title Chaos Walking.
It's a great title.
It's a great title. And if they drop, bring that title, bring that movie. I want to see it.
Okay, let me ask you this.
I didn't even know it was a science fiction movie.
If at this point you're saying, okay, don't panic yet about it's missing its release date, at what point do you even
did it
use
miss its
it?
release date?
No. It's supposed to come out in like 2 months.
Oh, okay.
But we're wondering, should we be worried since there's no trailer yet that they might push off their release date? You're saying you're not worried about that yet,
No.
but at what point would you become worried that it's going to get pushed off its release date? If we don't get a trailer by
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
So you're going to give it 2 more weeks.
I'll say the 15th, 21st at the very outside. If we don't have a trailer by the 21st, something's wrong.
They got to be pushing it off. Yeah.
Then suddenly
point.
Netflix is going to acquire it.
Oh my God.
It's going to be a Netflix acquisition.
All right, let's move on to our next email today. And our next email today comes to us from Eric Landa, who writes, "Hey, John, love your dedication to the show." Thank you so much, Eric. With Infinity War, I should say, making more than $2 billion, over or under 75%, Disney will not see the need to spend big money on airing an Avengers trailer during the Super Bowl. Thanks. Well, I'll tell you what, that's a very specific question just about the Super Bowl itself. What do you think? We got Super Bowl coming up. By the way, the Seattle Seahawks, I don't know if you heard, will not be in the Super Bowl this year.
You had to bring that up.
It was a great game, though.
The fourth quarter of that Cowboys-Seahawks game was so painful. They got like 24 yards to Dallas's 120.
Hey, if it makes you feel any better, with the way the Chargers are playing, I don't think my New England Patriots are going to the Super Bowl this year either. So you and I can commiserate together.
Yeah.
But with the Super Bowl coming, I believe it's in the beginning of February or something like that.
Yeah.
With the Super Bowl coming, what do you think the chances are that we see an Infinity War trailer at the Super Bowl?
Well, it's funny you ask this because
Ooh.
I watched an online video about the marketing of Avengers Endgame, comparing it to the marketing of Avengers Infinity War.
Right.
And there was really 2 trailers for Infinity War, and that was it, other than a few TV spots. And
Right.
they actually pinpointed it. They said that because Avengers Infinity War and Endgame come out within a day of one another, since they moved it into April.
Right. Much like they did last year. Last year was supposed to, Infinity War was supposed to open in May. And they bumped it back into April. They did the same thing this year.
So this video basically laid it out, and it said we will see the Avengers Endgame trailer, the full trailer, in the beginning of March. If the same pattern holds true, and after 225 million views in 24 hours, there's no reason to expect they would market it differently. And what comes out in the beginning of March? Captain Marvel. So we're going to have the new Avengers Endgame trailer right before Captain Marvel. I don't think we're going to see a Super Bowl spot because they don't need to spend the money.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Infinity War was actually, I was talking to one of the PR people over there, was actually, I believe, the second most money they've ever spent on a marketing campaign for a film was for Infinity War.
Wow.
Which, hey, it's a $2 billion film. Why not? Because
Right.
they know every dollar they spend, they're going to get that back threefold. Every dollar they spend on marketing, you're going to get back threefold. So that's good math, right? So there's a philosophical question and a specific question. The philosophical question, does Disney feel the need to market heavily this movie? Absolutely they do. There is a reason why Infinity War made over $2 billion, because they marketed the hell out of that movie. Like nonstop, no holds barred, went all out. This is a formula that works. People get ravenously crazy when they drop new marketing for this. So will they spend, let's say, as much? I don't know if it'll be specifically as much, but it'll be close. They're going to spend a hell of a lot of money on marketing. Spending the money on a Super Bowl ad, no problem for them.
Sure.
But specifically, will they on Super Bowl? I'm going to guess no. And I not because of the reasons you just listed, but
Right.
you raise a very good point that I hadn't even considered before. But I think they feel that Infinity War is such an anticipated movie. Why lump it in? Why lump that trailer in? Now, for many, 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 many movies, it would make sense. But for an Infinity War, it doesn't make sense to lump in your thing that is probably going to be the most anticipated out of all of them in with 20 other highly anticipated, not just movie commercials, but like the best commercials for every type of product every year come
Right.
out during the Super Bowl. Do you really want to spend your money there? They're going to spend a hell of a lot of money, make no mistake. But do you need to do it at Super Bowl? For a lot of films, yes. I'm going to guess for this one, no.
I'm with you 100%. Plus, you've got Captain Marvel coming out literally
Yeah.
a month later, and they'll get their trailer. Look, in my lifetime, I never thought I'd see a movie like Avatar make
Oh, yeah.
$2.5 billion
Yeah.
worldwide. But since I've been alive on this planet, there has never been a movie that has been coming out that I thought would potentially be the #1 highest grossing film of all time. No question. I think Avengers Endgame could be the highest grossing film of all time. I think it could go to 1 or 2.5 billion and beyond.
So
If it's good.
So
if it's good.
I mean, that's a tall order because you're talking about having to make, first of all, as much as the last one.
Yeah.
And then making 500 million more on
Yep.
top of that. I don't know. Because who didn't see the first one? Who didn't see the first one?
Right, I think everyone's going to go, but if this movie, if they stick, there's never been a movie, I think, in human history that has more anticipation of delivering the goods than this.
I would
movie
suggest
does.
The Phantom Menace.
Well, the Phantom Menace, true, but
Wah, wah.
yeah,
But it was the most anticipated, probably, the film in
yeah,
history.
probably was. But this movie, it's a different time, and you're coming off of a movie that's beloved that I keep watching and I love it. Now that it's on,
I watched it again over the holiday weekend with my mom. I put it on
Netflix.
again with my mom.
You know, it's so wildly entertaining. I think it could beat Avatar,
See, this is the funny thing, though.
but it has to be great.
You mentioned that. It has to be great. Infinity War was great,
I know.
and it made 200 million or 2 billion. Can it make another 500? Can it be so much better than Infinity War that it not only crosses that $2 billion mark, that it adds another 500? Because I remember having so many arguments with so many people online saying, Infinity War is going to be 3 billion, and it's 3 billion. It's going to be and I'm like, guys, it's not going to make $3 billion. You're an idiot, John. It's going to make $3 billion. And of course, it fell well short of that.
Right.
But still one of the highest grossing films in history.
Yeah, yeah.
Can it repeat one of the greatest in theater performances in history and add another 500 million? Because my only question is, who that is into this stuff didn't go see Infinity War? Is there $500 million left on the table?
Look, to make $2 billion, you have to do repeat business.
Mucho repeat
People
business.
went back to see that. If this movie, look, I find it interesting that two of the greatest genre bits of entertainment over the last decade, Game of Thrones, which is beginning its 6-episode final season, and Endgame, are coming out at the same time, because both of these franchises have pretty much always stuck their landings.
They really have.
I mean, the Battle
yeah.
of the Bastards and then the subsequent episode were two of the most satisfying hours of television I've
Absolutely.
ever seen. And I think they knew, since they made Infinity War concurrently with Endgame. I think they know. I think we know what we're going to get. I think that we know that we're going to get a wondrous time at the movies, at the picture shows.
I have no doubt. By the way, I watched on the flight back from Toronto, I popped on Captain America Winter Soldier, which I have not watched in a while. And you ever have one of those movies like, oh yeah, you remember that movie was awesome.
Yeah.
But then you watch it again and you're like, I forgot how awesome.
Right.
I watched Winter Soldier again on the plane coming back, and my jaw was open most of the time.
Right.
And I was remembering, and it made me have flashbacks to when I went to see the first press screening for it. I remember walking out of that theater, and I was with our friend Jennings Roth Cornett, and we walked out of the theater and just kind of looked at each other and we're like, what did we just watch?
Yeah.
And I remember how Is there any reason to doubt right now that Kevin Feige with the Russo brothers are going to absolutely stick this movie? No reason to doubt it whatsoever. This movie's going to be awesome. Can it make another $500 million? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
If it's that awesome, I'll go see it 10 times.
Because Infinity War was, well, and I think I did go see Infinity War 10 times. All right, let's move on now to our next topic.
Let's see what I've got for you. Well, this next topic comes from Barry Williams. Barry Williams of the Brady Bunch. Hi, John, and welcome back. Quick question. I watched your most anticipated movies of 2019 video, and I was really surprised that you didn't have Glass in your top 20 and only gave it an honorable mention. With all the excitement and fantastic trailer, why wouldn't you put it in your top 20 most anticipated? Yes, John, I too. I am with Barry Williams. Why did you not put it in your most anticipated top 20?
Yeah, okay, so for those of you who missed it, while I was on vacation, I still did some videos, including my most anticipated, and I made a top 20. And I mentioned in the honorable mention, didn't make the top 20, but was Glass. Look.
I'm going back and watching this video. I want to know what you put in your top 20.
So, look. Glass, we just talked about its Comic-Con trailer, was great.
Right.
It was a great Comic-Con trailer. I've liked the trailer since then. I am looking forward to this movie. I had it as an honorable mention. I am anticipating this movie. I can't wait to see it. We've only got about 12 more days till we get to go watch it. So I'm very, very stoked for it. So why then don't I have it in the top 20? And I'll tell you why. Shamhammer. M. Night Shyamalan. is why I don't have in my top 20. Now, look, we can say that M. Night is on a little bit of a roll right now, and he is.
He's a comeback kid, bro.
He did The Visit, which was a nice little movie. Not a spectacular movie, but it was a nice little movie. It was the first win for M. Night in a while. And good. He needed it, and it was a nice little, I enjoyed it. Then he did Split. I think Split, I enjoyed Split.
I did too.
But until the ending, I've talked to a lot of people that were like, yeah, I thought Split was okay, and then the ending happened, and it's a good movie. Split's a good movie. So I'm excited about Glass. But here's the thing. Right now, here, January 7th, 2019, I just cannot put a Shamhammer movie on my top 20. Why? Because of this. Look, if you let's call Signs. Let's call Signs a push, okay? I know there's a lot of people who didn't like Signs. I did like Signs, okay? I thought Signs was great, but I know there's a lot of people who don't. Fine. Let's call that a push. But after your Sixth Sense and Unbreakable and Signs, what did you have? You had The Village, which, oh my God. Then you had, I've got my unholy trinity of the three worst wide release big Hollywood films of all time, which is Catwoman, Battlefield Earth, and Highlander 2. I'm telling you what, if there was a fourth spot on that list, it would be the abysmal dumpster fire Sin Against Humanity, Later in the Water, one of the worst motion pictures ever made in history. How did he follow that up? He followed it up with The Killer Trees, with The Happening. The trees are going to kill us. He followed that up with The Happening. And then he puts out this movie that the trailers looked pretty good. And looked like The Last Airbender was coming out. Trailers looked pretty good. We're like, oh, maybe the Shamhammer's back. One of the most despised and hated movies of all time. And then he did, what was the name of the one with Will Smith?
Was it After Earth?
After Earth, right? A movie that a lot of you didn't even realize he directed because his name was so much in the mud, they hid the fact that he directed it. And that movie was terrible and awful as well. You're going to ask me, John, why isn't an M. Night Shyamalan in your 20 most anticipated movies of the year list? I'll tell you why. The Village, Lady in the Water, The Happening, The Last Airbender, and After Earth. How can you put a movie directed by this guy you're talking to? Now, look.
Man, I'm sold. That is a very compelling argument.
Now, let me say this, though. Let me say this. I do want to restate, though, that his last couple of films have actually been pretty good. I know a lot of you haven't seen The Visit with Catherine Hahn, by the way, is in that. And I love Catherine Hahn. It is a nice little low budget film that he went and did, and I thought he did a really nice job with it. Split again, I think is not. He's got 2 wins under his belt in a row, and the trailers for this one look really good. But trailers can always look good to bad movies, and I'm just saying I need more than 2 modest, nice little wins in a row to overcome the stench of one of the worst streaks in cinematic history that the Shamhammer gave us. Am I saying this movie can't be good? Not at all. It's still in my honorable mentions of most anticipated. But you're asking me why it can't crack my top 20? Shamhammer. Shamhammer. It's got to prove me wrong.
I would like to offer, though, an alternative point of view.
I'd love to hear it.
For the Shamhammer. He had a tremendous ego. You know, he made Sixth Sense, he made Unbreakable, then he made the Signs.
What was the Time magazine had? The next Spielberg.
The next Spielberg. I mean, he was riding high, and his ego, I think, got the best of him. He thought he could do no wrong. After watching The Happening, I'm like, what? And I even liked the script. But, yeah. So what did he do? He went back to Jason Blum.
Yes,
and he went
which
back
is a
to
great move.
Low-budget roots. I mean, a lot of filmmakers would never do what he did. He goes to Jason Blum. He makes The Visit for Blumhouse.
Nice little film.
And then he makes Split, which is basically a small, contained film that mostly takes place in a couple of rooms.
Yeah.
Not a lot of money there. Great performance from James McAvoy and Miss Joy. Fantastic character actor piece, really.
Yeah.
Betty Buckley. Come on, Betty Buckley, who's been killing it on Broadway, but I remember her from 8 is Enough. She was the stepmother to the Brood. But I loved seeing her, and she was in Carrie, if you remember that. But
I totally forgot that.
She's the gym teacher that gets cut in half by the swinging basketball backboard. But I thought he really did a great thing, and he went back to his indie roots and made indie films. And a lot of people wouldn't do that. And I think this movie is what's going to put him back into the A-list of studio filmmakers if it works.
This is a pivotal outing for him because Blumhouse is putting more energy behind the distribution and the marketing of this film than they have for a lot of their films. They're putting a lot of hype to it. Just driving into the studio today, I mean, I think, Ray, you and I passed by about 4 or 5 different billboards for this movie listed all over the place. It is a pivotal one. And look, make no mistake, I am cheering for this movie.
Yeah.
I like the last couple of films M. Night, and nothing is better than a good comeback story. I'm just saying I can't buy in wholeheartedly with that streak of films, because remember, we're not talking about 5 bad films.
Right.
We're talking about historically awful filmmaking.
Right.
And by the way,
dude, The Village, one of the most angering things, I walked out of The Village going, what, a jetliner never flew over that wilderness area?
They rerouted air traffic.
Yeah.
I think they rerouted air traffic. And stellar cast: Joaquin Phoenix, Bryce Dallas Howard, Sigourney Weaver.
I know.
Look, it was a great cast. All that had a lot of stuff potentially going for it. But I'll tell you what. Going to your point, have you ever heard this story? And you guys can go up and look this up. But talking about what happened to his ego, Disney was originally supposed to be the studio behind Lady in the Water,
right?
But the studio head had some problems with the script, and there was this infamous dinner that happened between her and M. Night. And she's like, I don't know, M. Night, maybe writing yourself into the movie as the writer who saves the world isn't going to go over so well. and lots of other things. He was so mad that they would question anything that he would do. He got up, stormed out, and he never worked with them again. And then we saw what happened. Lady in the Water was a travesty of a movie, blah, blah, blah. It's just another one of those things when people say to me, you know, the filmmakers should have total creative freedom. Bullshit. No, they shouldn't. Filmmaking is a collaborative art. It's and sometimes you need to listen to people outside of your own headspace.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a point where his ego got the best of him. He should have listened to the people at Disney, and he might have been able to avoid it. But you know what? I agree with you. If he crushes it with Glass, easily his most anticipated movie in a long time, and makes it 3 in a row, Shamhammer's back. He's back.
Yes.
If he can do this. This is a pivotal.
Shamhammer's back.
This is a pivotal one. All right. Let's move on now to our final email of the day. And our final email of the day comes to us from Sahil M, who writes, I'm losing hope in this Batman movie every day. I read a rumor the other day that Warner Brothers might start shooting a Batman movie in late 2019, November or December is what I read. If that even happens, it will be nearly 3 years from when they announced Matt Reeves was going to direct it, and even if they do start shooting it, it would probably not be ready to release until 2021 what gives. All right, let me take you back just a little bit of a time capsule here to breaking news that happened. The breaking news, as you've read here, Matt Reeves is the new Batman director. This was not news that came out 3 months ago. This was not news that came out. This was news that came out, I believe, in either January or February of 2017, nearly 2 years ago. The current rumors that are circulating around, by the way, none of which have been confirmed. None of this is confirmed. This is all rumors at this point. Is that Warner Brothers may be looking to start shooting this Batman movie in late 2019, November or December 2019, which would put us just a skip away from 3 years from when they announced Matt Reeves. Now, the original estimates in this movie was that it was going to be released in 2018 at some point. And now we're looking at 2021 at very optimistically, maybe even later than that. This is getting into Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Black Adam territory at this point. It really is. And what has always frustrated me about this scenario, now remember, full disclosure, I wanted a Ben Affleck directed Batman movie. Fine.
Me too.
But when they announced Matt Reeves, I'm like, well, hell, if you can't have Ben, Matt Reeves is a pretty damn good choice. And I was very optimistic about it. In that time, a lot of people, as months kept rolling on, people would make excuses. Oh, it just means they're taking their time and they're not rushing it. Really? Because Matt Reeves has had plenty of time to sign all these Netflix deals, these deals he's done with Shonda Rhimes, all these other productions, tons of time in the world to do all these other things. Where the hell is Batman? Now, on the other hand, I will say this though, Robert, is that I am really buying into, even though I don't know what his strategy is right now, I am buying into Walter Hamada may just very well know what he's doing here. And if the idea of Walter Hamada is we need a break from Batman for just a little bit, and like Aquaman waiting a year from Justice League to clear the air a little bit, maybe he's thinking we need to clear the air a little bit on Batman. I am buying more and more into the vision of Walter Hamada. And if that's the case here, that's fine. But as a fan, Sahil, I can completely relate with where you're at because you're right. The end of this year, we're going to be getting on 3 years since they announced this guy, and still we haven't started shooting it. Still, we haven't got a completed script. He's done tons of other things that apparently are more important to him than Batman at this point. So I just want to see this movie. I'm sounding upset, but it's only because I really do want to see Matt Reeves' Batman. I'm excited to see it and see what he does. So, I mean, I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. And let me throw this open to you guys, too. By the way, this isn't official that we're going to start filming this movie this year.
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, I have my doubts. I'm not saying they're not. I am not saying they're not going to start shooting this year, but I have my doubts. But that brings up today's question of the day. And our question of the day today, guys, is simply this. Do you think that this Matt Reeves Batman movie will actually start shooting in 2019 so far? Here's how you guys answer. Go on over to my Twitter account, which is simply, twitter.com/John Campea. Head on over to my Twitter account, and there's the very top tweet on the account right now is that question of the day. Do you think Batman movie will actually start shooting this year? Right now, we now have about 2,000 responses. Only 30% of you right now are saying yes. They're going to start shooting in 2019. 70% of you right now are saying no. I'm going to leave this poll up for the rest of the day. We'll check in on the final results tomorrow. So once again, go to my Twitter account, which is twitter.com/John Campea. Top tweet, do you think they're actually going to start shooting Batman this year? Register your vote, and we'll go over the results tomorrow. Let me ask you, Robert. It has been about 2 years since they announced that Matt Reeves. We still don't have a script. They say the first draft was handed in. But do you think we're going to see it this year? And at what point, as a fan, where are you at right now with this Batman thing?
Look, here's the thing with studio filmmaking, and it's a truism. I worked at Warner Brothers for 2 years. It's all about the screenplay. If they have a great screenplay that they
and the
believe
Benjamins,
they will fast track a movie into production. They have not had a great script that they love. The studio hasn't. They didn't have it with Ben Affleck. Even he said it wasn't, he wanted to continue working on the script, whether it was because he was going to rehab or not. They've not had a script they want to make, period. That's where they're at. And we've had a lot of Batman movies. We had the 3 Nolan movies. We've seen Ben Affleck as Batman in a number of films. We had the 4 previous Batman movies. it's hard to come up with a good Batman script.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Everybody thinks it's easy. It's not easy.
I think for all the superheroes that they're making movies about today, Batman's probably the hardest to come up with a new, really good script that serves everybody's needs. So I don't have faith that it's going to start shooting this year.
Interesting story came out a few months ago talking about the Ben Affleck version of the script. And I forget the name of the guy. Maybe you'll remember. It's a guy who directed a number of DC's animated movies, and he's also one of their primary storyboard artists for their major feature films.
Right.
And I'm forgetting the guy's name, but he's a director of a lot of the animated stuff. And he came out and he said this, because he already started working on the storyboards.
Right, I remember this.
And he came out and he said, Ben's Batman script was phenomenal, and he said it was the best Batman script he had ever read, and that included Christopher Nolan's scripts. Now, granted, that's just one guy.
Right.
Maybe he's got terrible taste. I don't know, but
Well,
I thought that was interesting.
You know, it's different though, because everybody, the fan community does not understand. They don't understand that it's really difficult. Everyone's like, well, why can't you make it like it was in the comics? Or why can't you make it like it was in the book or whatever? It's really difficult to translate this material into a screenplay that people can actually make into a live action feature film.
Yeah, different mediums have different requirements.
It's really tough. And, you know, we've had so many different Batman stories, but would they work on the big screen? It's hard. Look, if they had a good Batman script, they would announce it was going into pre-production and they would give you a start date right away. But they don't have that script.
So for now, we're just going to have to wait and see, as we have been doing for 2 years, how's this thing going to move along. I still think, look, I'm sounding very pessimistic. I still think there's reason for optimism here. I really do.
They are, yeah.
As long, it's still Batman and it's still Matt Reeves.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
And as long as it's still those two things, there's reason for hope.
Yeah.
So let's see where things go from there. All right, guys, listen, that will do it for all the email questions of the day. But, you know, as we like to do on the John Campea Show, especially since it's our first show back here in 2019, we like to take live questions from you guys. A bunch of you guys have been firing in live questions ever since the start of the show. Pardon me, I picked up a little bit of a cough when I was in Canada. So let's go over to our live questions right now. The first one comes to us from Jay Bling, who writes, Holmes and Watson poop the bed even with John C. Reilly and continues Will Ferrell's cold streak. Yeah. Will you be more cautious about Will Ferrell movies going forward if they aren't directed by Adam McKay? Listen, this is a heartbreaker to me because I was so excited about Holmes and Watson when I first heard about it.
Me too.
I love Step Brothers, and I really like Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
And then I heard, then I saw the trailer for Holmes and Watson, which was awful.
I kind of liked it.
Oh, that's right, you did.
I kind of liked it.
But then, so Ann and I were going to go watch it in Canada, but then we saw all the reviews saying it was just abysmal. So I didn't want to break my own heart, so I skipped it altogether.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
And you know what? Will Ferrell, he is on a cold streak. Like, remember last year he put out that one with Amy Poehler called The House, where they ran their own casino.
Yeah.
Great potential, decent trailers, horrible movie. I still believe in Will Ferrell. I really do. I'm a big Will Ferrell fan. But I'm going to admit, Jay Bling, you're not off the mark here. Am I going to be a little bit more cautious about getting my hopes up for the next Will Ferrell film? Yeah, I am going to be. I'm still going to be excited, but am I going to be a little bit more cautious? Yeah, I don't know. What about you, Robert?
Oh, me too. I mean, it's interesting. I just think that one of the things... Look, I have not seen Holmes and Watson. It just seems so out of touch with what kind of comedy is working today, what people really want to see. And it just, look, I like stupid humor as much as the next guy, but it looked too stupid. I mean, if that makes any sense. I mean, you can't make movies that are too stupid anymore.
You know, it's funny. It's like that same goofy fun thing we were talking about with Aquaman and Venom, right? They think, oh, just stupid fun. Just do stupid funny. One stupid funny is not equal to all their stupid. Some stupid funny works, some does not.
Right.
And just because you're doing stupid funny does not mean it automatically works. And this is a good example of that. I'm upset writes, Juan Mija writes, hello, John. Bohemian Rhapsody took home 2 awards last night from the completely pointless and useless Golden Globes that I don't even talk about. But Bohemian Rhapsody took 2 awards last night, but Bryan Singer was not mentioned in any of the speeches. Is his career dead at this point? No, it ain't dead. You were just pointing out he's working on another film right now.
Yeah, he's up to direct Red Sonja for Millennium. And I know he's been working with screenwriter Ashley Miller. They previously worked together on, he produced X-Men First Class that Ashley wrote. Ashley also wrote Thor. He was on the 2 writing team there. So they're working on Red Sonja now. Whether that movie gets made, I don't know, but it might.
Now, look, it was clearly a bad breakup between Fox and Bryan Singer. Bryan Singer's still the director of credit on that film.
Yeah.
And all the success that Bohemian Rhapsody's having is only working into his resume
it's his
right now.
team. It's Tom Siegel, his DP, and it's John Ottman. I mean, so even though Brian did not shoot the last 9 days of principal photography, it's not like it wasn't already planned and scheduled, and his team finished the film.
Yeah, and he did go back into the editing room afterwards
Yes.
and finish off the film. It's still his movie. I'm Upset writes, over under 15%, Aquaman and Wonder Woman will cameo in Shazam. I'm going to take the under on that, and here's why. Walter Hamada seems to be really emphasizing the standalone nature of each of these films. Even in Aquaman, if you blink, you miss the only reference to the DCEU as a whole, and that's that one quick line that Mara says when she first shows up saying, you defeated Steppenwolf. That's it.
That's right.
No other reference to the DCU as a whole. That seems to be his philosophy right now, kind of just letting each movie stand on their own. So I'm going to, even though 15% is a low number, I'm going to take the under 15% on that. What about
Me
you,
too.
Robert?
Me too. I think Shazam. Look, Shazam has enough problems establishing himself as a major player. They don't need to look. If it works, if Shazam's great, then they can tie it in. They're being smart. Make these movies work individually, then bring these characters back together. They're going back and they're rebuilding.
Because you know they're not going to have any tie-ins. Wonder Woman 1984 is not going to have any cameos.
No.
Like no significant cameos.
It can't.
It was a standalone film. Aquaman was very much a standalone film. I think Shazam will very much be a standalone film. Samuel Pole writes, screw, marry, kill, Bumblebee, Baymax, and Wall-E. I pass. Baymax is so good. Baymax, that whole, look, Big Hero 6, people, because it's been a few years now.
Oh, I love
People
Big Hero
forget
6.
how good that movie is.
Oh, yeah.
That is a wonderful, and Baymax is a wonderful character. Wall-E is Wall-E. Bumblebee, I'm just going to take a pass. Do you want to take a shot at it? I'm passing.
Well, they're all mechanical beings.
It's true.
And I don't think I could become
Married to
how
her.
do you kill one? I guess you could make love to
Just
one.
pretend you're Scarlet Witch and it's Baymax's vision.
Yeah,
I guess. I
I
don't
too
know.
am going to pass.
All right. KW Garrett writes, John, I have found an objective way to measure the quality of movies, but I can't tell you via Super Chat. Meet me at Death Peak Canyon at midnight. Okay, what this means, for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, he says, meet me at Death Peak Canyon at midnight. Whenever people bring up the little movie cliches that bother you the most,
Right.
I have a couple of them, but one of them is always this. That inevitably in every TV show or movie, particularly if it's a mystery or a suspense thing, at some point, the hero will get a call. And it'll be from somebody saying, hey, yo, Dr. Tim, it's me, Julius. I've figured out who the murderer is. Dr. Tim's like, really, Julius? Who is the murderer? Not on the phone. Meet me at Death Peak at midnight or something. And you know Julius gonna die before he gets to Death Peak at midnight, right?
Oh, yeah.
This happens in like 80% of movies and television shows. Not over the phone. Whenever I hear that, not over the phone, I want to yell, why the fuck not over the phone? What's wrong with the phone? Just tell him who's the murderer. That happens all the time. That's one of my, what's one of your biggest cliche pet peeves that you see all the time?
You know what? I can't. I don't know if it's a pet peeve or a cliche. I can't stand thrillers that end with somebody getting shot. There was a time when I was reading scripts for a director back in the mid-'90s, and I was submitted a bunch of thriller scripts, and I made this thing. If this script ends with somebody being shot, I would throw it across the room into the corner. It got up maybe 3 or 4 feet high of just these horrible scripts that ended with somebody shooting somebody else, and I'm like, can't you end your thriller better than this? So that was always my cliche. I hated thrillers that ended with somebody getting shot.
You know what?
hated
You
it.
know what it is? Hero loves a girl. The girl is either dating a guy or is married to a guy. And what's that guy usually? A dick. That
yeah.
guy. The guy always ends up being the dick,
Yeah.
which is one of the reasons why I really liked Venom. It's because Michelle Williams' new guy was actually a really nice guy.
Right.
That's why I like that. Good on you, Venom. All right. James Welsh writes, 10 years ago, Taken was released this month. Wow. Taken was 10 years ago?
That's taken 10 years of my life then.
Oh.
Where'd the time go?
Holy crap. Thanks a lot, James.
But
Thanks,
you know,
man.
it's pretty cool that's become like a meme. I
Yeah.
have a very particular set of skills. I will find you and I will kill you. I mean, that everyone knows that now.
Yeah.
It permeated the culture.
And by the way, do look up some memes on that because there are some hilarious
Oh,
memes out there
incredible.
about that. Cody Carroll writes, do you think the drumming octopus in Aquaman would have been better at the end battle scene, similar to how militaries use drums as a battle cry. Look, I get it. I know that the octopus was a cameo of like Aquaman's pet octopus from the. I still thought it was a dumb shot. It doesn't matter if that's what they were going for. I know you loved it. I know there were a number of people that actually loved it. I still thought it was stupid. But you know what? Yeah, maybe at the end, as they're going into battle, a big battle cry thing, maybe that would have been a little bit more palatable to me at the moment. You know what didn't help it? The fact that they do that, followed immediately by the ESPN scoreboard shot of pros and cons like that. That was a little too Phantom Menace for me. That was a little bit too Phantom Menace. Snake Jerusalem writes, are Bumblebee and Spider-Verse bombing? No, well, Spider-Verse isn't. Spider-Verse is closing in on breaking even, as a matter of fact. So let me just bring up here the box office. But Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is getting awfully close to actually breaking even, if not more so, because it only cost $90 million, which means you need about $270 or $300 million to break even, and it's at $275 million now. So it's doing better than I thought it would.
Right.
Bumblebee is another story. Bumblebee is not doing so well, but I don't think anybody expected to. Bumblebee cost $135 million, which means you're talking about needing to get close to $400 million to breaking even, and Bumblebee right now sitting at $289 million, nearing the end of its run. But you know what? I don't think anybody at Paramount is surprised. I think they knew this was not a film that would perform well. The purpose of Bumblebee was not to perform well. It was to lay the groundwork for future success.
Right.
And it's a damn good movie. So I think they're going to count it as a win. Now they just want to try to recoup as much of that money as they can. But it is a flop. There is no doubt. Spider-Man not. Bumblebee, unfortunately, is, even though it's a great movie. All right. Next up, Patrick Conway writes, just want to recommend Love Hate for Robert. It's an Irish crime show that stars Aidan Gillian, Ruth Negga, and Tom Vaughan Lawler, Ebony Maw. It's great.
I'll watch that. I've never heard of it either. Is it on Netflix? I'll watch that. I'll watch the heck out of that.
How is Ruth Negga? Ruth Negga's making Preacher. How is she like? Is this an old show? Or is this
I don't know. Maybe it is. I'll watch that.
Thanks for the recommendation, Patrick. KW Garrett writes, Netflix refused to buy Holmes and Watson. Wow, just wow. I read that, although I didn't read in depth, but I think I read a couple of headlines saying that the studio actually tried to dump Holmes and Watson off on Netflix, and even Netflix wouldn't take it. So they were just released in theater, will recoup some of the money, but woo, that's never a good sign. Never a good sign.
I don't
KW.
think Netflix is going to be anyone's dumping ground anymore. I mean, not after Roma. And
I do.
I don't think they're going to.
Because for every Roma, there's 5 or 6.
But they're gonna step up their game. They've got a little taste of that award show cheddar that they're.
I think they're going to have some, but I still think it's going to be like a 10-to-1 ratio. Because they're talking about putting out like 70 to 80 original films a year.
That is true.
I mean, I don't expect to see.
But if they're making
25 Romas, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I mean, I don't know. Let's see if they can turn the game around. Because Bird Box is also pretty. I don't think Bird Box is as good as many people make it out to be, but I thought it was good. I enjoyed Bird Box.
Look, it's beautifully made.
Yeah.
And I love seeing John Malkovich again.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was in it.
Yeah.
So he popped on the screen. That was a really nice surprise.
I like Bird Box. It just doesn't have a third act.
Right. Patrick Conway writes, Would you react if Megatron transforms into a blaster? You know what? Even as a kid, I never understood the physics of this 20-story tall robot transforming into a little gun that fits in Soundwave's hand. That never made sense to me. It is something from the cartoon that should not be brought into live action.
I completely agree.
Rodney Alexander writes, hey, John, with all the anticipated movies coming out this year and trailers being released with footage that doesn't make the film, do you think studios will start to get hip and release trailers with footage that they know won't make it in to avoid leaks? No, I don't think that'll become a trend. I really don't, because, look, if something is a spoiler, you just don't put it in your trailer in the first. There's lots of stuff you can put in your trailers, and nothing in your trailer will be a leak. So I don't see that. Now, look, one of the things that Rodney is referring to here is that there are many times that trailers come out, and there's footage, there are little shots in trailers that don't actually make it into the movie. 95% of the time, that's simply because these trailer houses, and by the way, most studios don't even cut their own trailers. They hire these trailer houses to make their trailers for them. They send over all the footage. The trailers companies start to put these trailers together, and these are normally even before the movie's finished shooting. Mm-hmm. A lot of the times then, the trailer companies will make these trailers, and then later on in the process, scenes or shots get cut out of the movie, but they're already in the trailer.
Right.
And that's 95% of the time. Sometimes you get examples like in Infinity War where they purposely put in a couple things just to do a little bit of a misdirect. But how many
running shot?
Yeah,
the running shot.
The one with the Hulk. Just anything with the Hulk, right?
In Rogue One, there's that shot where the TIE fighter rises up when Jyn Erso's
standing on the edge of the bridge. Not in the movie.
They did that specifically for the trailer.
Actually, I thought was part of the reshoots.
Oh, maybe
that was something that got cut out in the massive
maybe
reshoots. So, I mean, it happens, but very, 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 very few movies, maybe one or two a year, are of the scope and the scale of a Star Wars Episode 7 or of an Avengers Infinity War, an Avengers Endgame. Like, the average movie does not have that type of attention on it and wouldn't need to pull that sort of a move. So we're going to continue to see trailers with shots in the trailers that aren't in the movie simply because of editing that happens later on.
Yeah.
But for the most part, what's one of the biggest examples of that you can think of, other than, because Rogue One was a major example of that. Lots of stuff that wasn't in the movies.
You know, nothing's jumping out at me, but yeah, just that the most, because I love that shot. I love the TIE fighter rising up shot, but I can't really think of. I can't.
There was
really
also a
think of
big
anything
Darth
now.
Vader shot. Darth Vader standing in front of one of the display screens and turning around and facing, and it's like that scene isn't even in the movie.
Right.
It probably was at some point,
And then it got cut.
but then a little later. But again, the idea, Rodney, that they use it to prevent leaks, that doesn't prevent leaks.
No.
Leaks will still happen, leaks whatever. And if you want to prevent spoilers in your trailers, well, then just don't put in things that are spoilers, right?
Also, it's so weird to me when people talk about leaks and spoilers. I mean, movies take 2 years to get made. It's not like sometimes they might not give an actor a script page or something, but these movies are getting made. You know, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people working on these films. So, you know, leaks. Why? I don't know. Fan sites want to hear about leaks, but it's always weird to me when people think that, because movies take so long to get made.
They really do. So, I mean,
Leaks
look,
are weird.
Rodney, what you're bringing up a topic that we've had to discuss a lot, and we continue to discuss as marketing for these films evolves and what their strategies are. So let's keep an eye on that. So it's a really good point to raise up. James Bonner writes, welcome back, John. In my opinion, Aquaman did not deserve a nomination for Best Special Effects. I think people can sometimes mistake big and flashy for quality, in my humble opinion. Well, look, I'm exactly the same way. Look, Aquaman did not make the final 10 for the potential nominees for Best Visual Effects. Of course, they'll winnow that down to 5, but it didn't even make the final 10. In my opinion, a lot of people mistake quantity of visual effects, because there's a lot of visual effects in Aquaman. Tons.
A lot.
And they're good. They're good. They're good visual effects. They're good. But as much as I liked Aquaman, I never once came out going, whoa, that was a revolutionary visual effects kind of movie. There was nothing about the movie that I thought, in the visual effects realm, that I thought ever made me think this is one of the best visual effects jobs I've seen all year. There were good effects, and there were lots of them, but I just thought there were too many others that did a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think philosophically, what is a visual effect supposed to do? It's supposed to help you suspend your disbelief.
Right.
In Aquaman, I think the opposite was true. The visual effects were to make you realize that this wasn't real. You know, you were in this fantasy realm. There was no shred of believability. And that was part of the fun of the movie. Yeah. Is that we said it earlier, it didn't take place in the Man of Steel universe that you believe.
Right.
It takes place in this wacky, zany, fantasy underwater realm that no one, and that's why the effects worked for the kind of movie it was.
And by the way, the giant crocodile that Orm rides, right? It never looked real to me. Like, I always looked at it and I could clearly, by the way, a lot of people wanted then, well, Black Panther made the final 10 and it had horrible visual effects. And I would challenge that, because look, that scene in the third act of Black Panther when Michael B. Jordan and Black Panther are falling down and they're both in their Black Panther suits fighting, that was awful. I mean, there's no defending that. I completely agree there was no defending that. But that didn't represent the entirety of the movie. That scene, after they left the nightclub and they do the street chase scene where he's chasing Andy Serkis and he's jumping from car to car and car, that sequence was jaw-droppingly, insanely fantastic.
Yeah.
That was visual effects that I actually thought a man was jumping on the streets from car to car and doing all these crazy things. And that's just an example of why I think like a Black Panther was nominated, by the way, didn't even get a nomination yet, but got into the top 10,
right,
whereas like an Aquaman didn't. So that's just kind of the way I feel. All right. Cody Carroll writes, Rob, great to see you again. Did you see Spider-Man? Well, Nope. Still hasn't seen it, but he promises me he's. Ray is asking, do you? Nope. He's promising me though that he's going to go see it today. Robert is saying he's going to go see it today. So tune in tomorrow for Spider-Man Update with Robert Meyer Burnett to see if he actually finally saw this damn thing. James Welsh writes. That should have been the question of the day. Ray is saying that should have been our question of the day. James Welsh is writing, How to Train Your Dragon 3 getting glowing reviews. No doubt. No doubt. I still remember seeing the first one and being like, it looked like another little throwaway animated film. And then I saw it and was like, wow, this is a movie about fathers and sons, and I'm a sucker for those. And there's heart and emotion and great humor.
Great
and then
stuff.
The second one was almost as good, if not better than the first one. I have no reason to doubt this third one. And by the way, if it is as good as the other two, I'm not saying it's the best trilogy ever made. No. But I'm saying when you start having your conversations about, let's talk about the greatest trilogies ever made, How You Train Your Dragon is going to have to be in that discussion somewhere if the third one is as good as the first two. What do you think about the first two?
I loved them in 3D as well. Home 3D. They're fantastic movies. I really enjoyed those films. Again, like you, I'm like, How to Train Your Dragon. I thought it was going to be some, not even an adult animated film that you could enjoy that was made for kids.
Right.
And it was one of the biggest surprises I've had in quite some time. The first one.
It very much felt like a Pixar film.
It really did. Level. It was really, really good.
And I mean that in all the best ways. I'm Upset writes, I just binged The Last OG with Tracy Morgan. Good show. You know what? I've always been interested in that show. I've never had a chance to watch it because I don't have a chance to watch a lot of TV. But I've always thought that looked pretty good. Have you ever had a chance to watch it?
I've never watched it, but I remember seeing the trailers before it debuted. It looked good.
Yeah, it does look good. You seen it, Ray? Ray gives it the thumbs up, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, it is now official. You should check out The Last OG with Tracy Morgan. Gabriel Reed writes, my wife and I really enjoyed Aquaman. She told me on the way home it was more fun than Wonder Woman, but clearly Wonder Woman is the better film. I never thought of it that way, but totally agree. I agree too. I still think Wonder Woman is the second best DCEU movie. Like Man of Steel is clearly my favorite.
Sure.
I think Wonder Woman is second best. But if you just want to talk about that one element of fun. Yeah, Aquaman is a more fun movie than Wonder Woman. I'll give it that for sure.
Well, yeah,
I agree.
It's different. I mean, look, World War I was not fun. It wasn't fun for anyone. It wasn't fun for anyone. It was the war to end all war, the Great War, and look, it was cool seeing Wonder Woman run across that no man's land sequence, but a lot of people were dying in that movie, and it doesn't exactly scream mirth and bemused fun. I mean, whereas Aquaman was a hoot from beginning to end.
The war to end all wars. Ba, 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 ba. Like, it doesn't kind of flow with that. Dan Ketchum writes, Aquaman at 1 billion, I called it. Well, you know what's funny? It's all these guys, and I'm going to pin you to the wall for this one, Dan. When they'll make 1,000 predictions a year, and like 3 or 4 of them will come true, and then they'll jump out, I called it, but they'll never come out and say when they do it. Look, when I get it wrong, nobody will remind you more of when I get one wrong than me.
Yeah.
I will harp on how I will harp daily about how I got something wrong. And I completely got Venom wrong. I didn't completely get Aquaman or Venom wrong. I predicted both would be successful. It's not like I thought they would flop.
Right.
But I said never make $1 billion, and it's going to make $1 billion. But I just always love it. Dan, I'm going to pick on you a little bit here. When these armchair quarterback guys come out and say, well, I called it. Well, first of all, show me where you called. And second of all, now point out to me the 50 that you didn't get.
Right.
Because you're not going to get on Super Chat and remind me of the ones that you missed. I will, however, get on here and remind you every day of the ones that I missed because, I missed it. But you know what? The thing about both Venom and Aquaman, couldn't be happier to have missed those ones. Couldn't have been happier. I was so thrilled for Venom's success. I believed it could be successful. I believed Aquaman would be successful.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy to see that they were more successful than I thought they possibly could. Because like I capped it at $700 million back in June, and it blew past $700 million. It's blown past $800 million. It's going to hit $1 billion this year, and I couldn't be happier. It's always nice to see good, fun movies, quality movies, whether or not they're the best films of the year or not, whatever. But it's always good to see good movies succeed. And for a thing like Aquaman, I couldn't be happier for it.
Me too. And it's also great for the industry. It's great for future fantasy films. I mean,
Yeah.
that Venom and Aquaman both worked as well as they did it, especially at the box office. I mean, I don't know if Venom worked as well as a film, but it made tons of money, and that's what really matters. And who knows what we're going to get because of that success? Something equally weird and off the wall. Where's my Atari Force movie?
By the way, chocolate and tater tots is still one of my favorite lines of the year. Ben Rayner writes, funny, Harrison Ford came out right after Jeff Bridges. Do you think they were getting ready together backstage? Jeff seemed out of his mind. Well, first of all, Jeff always, he likes to make sure he's just, that he's leveled out a little bit whenever he goes public. Harrison Ford as well. I did not watch the Golden Globes. I don't give a shit about the Golden Globes.
I thought his speech was great.
I'm sure
I mean,
it was.
It was really, I interviewed Jeff Bridges once for my Tron documentary.
Right.
And he was just like that. He was so nice and so all over the place.
That's all I ever hear is how nice he is.
I mean, the fact that he remembered all of the old directors that he'd worked with, like Michael Cimino, who directed Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, and he brought up all these people like off the top of his head. He wasn't reading a card. I mean, he's that guy. What you see is what you get with him. And I loved his speech. I thought it was great.
Ben Rayner writes, Happy New Year's, guys. Have a great 2019. Well, I think we're off to a pretty good start here, Robert.
I think so.
And as soon as you see Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, it'll be even better.
Man, I just hope we don't end up winding up living in the dystopian Los Angeles that we saw in Blade Runner. As long as that doesn't happen, we'll be okay.
All right. Nathan Oswald writes, to me, the worst thing a movie can be is boring. Oh, I don't disagree. You can be slow. Slow's fine. You can be very paced. You can be whatever. The one thing, because I've always said this, Robert, movies are experiential events. Whether you're going in to experience thrills or fear or laughter or wonder or deep thought or whatever it is, a movie that elicits out of you, movies are supposed to be experiential events. The one catechism to that, though, is boredom. If you are, nothing is worse than being bored in a movie. And I'll tell you what, that's the movie that everybody loves, Roma. Unfortunately for me, I was bored. I was bored watching Roma. And even everybody else loves it, so don't take my word for it. Ignore me. Go watch Roma because everybody else loves it. But for me, I was bored watching.
Well, it's funny. I was with you at first. Because I didn't know once I figured out what was happening and the way it was done, the technique, these long takes. I mean, from a directorial standpoint, I was sitting there with my jaw on the floor.
But you could tell it was made by the hand of a master.
Yeah,
you could tell it was made with the hand of a master.
There were scenes when I'm just like, there's a scene where a camera goes from the beach into the surf. And I'm like, how did they do that? Like, it was such a simple thing. It doesn't move. I mean, they're clearly in the surf. And the camera is perfect. It doesn't get jostled. There's no water that comes on the screen. I'm like, I was stunned by this. I know it was probably a techno crane or whatever, but that move was incredible. And my jaw hit the floor.
But even just the opening shot of the movie in the house with the camera moving through the house as the girl's going through the house. I mean, it's just, you could tell an artist made this,
yes,
you know?
Yes.
And even though the film didn't work for me, you can still really appreciate it. It was still done by a master's hand.
Oh.
You can totally tell it's done by a master's hand.
Yeah.
Let's see. James Welsh writes, do you think the studio is disappointed in Creed 2's box office, made less than the first and cost more? You have to be. By the way, what was the final total? By the way, remember, the first Creed didn't make a ton of money either. The first one didn't make a lot of money either. Creed 2 ended up making $144 million on a $50 million budget. That means it probably roughly broke even. Again, a little bit more expensive than the last one, made less than the last one. That is disappointing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call Creed 2 a flop. No, it's not a flop, but disappointed? Yeah, I could totally see that the studio's probably a little bit let down by especially since it's a good movie.
Right.
It's not like they put out a dumpster fire of a sequel. It was a good movie they put out. It just didn't kind of work.
Also, I mean, look, Creed had the advantage of being everyone. It came out of nowhere pretty much, and it was so much better than people thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So the surprise factor of the first film, they didn't have that with Creed 2. They expected, oh, well, this is interesting. I mean, this really worked. So to have it come out and be a very legit, very well done sequel, that's all you can ask for, and it made money. I mean, it might not have been a bonanza, but it did okay.
It did all right. KW Garrett writes, did eighth grade crack your honorable mention? It did not. But look, I liked eighth grade. I did. I thought it was quite good. But there were many movies that I thought were quite good that didn't crack my top 10 of the year or my honorable mention thing. So eighth grade did not crack it for me, but don't take that as me casting shade on it. I thought it was a really solid little film. I enjoyed eighth grade quite a bit. Did you have a chance to see eighth grade?
I have not seen eighth grade, but I do want to catch up with it. It looks right in my wheelhouse.
Chris Warden writes, just have time for a couple more here, guys. Chris Warden writes, congrats to everyone involved with Aquaman. The DCEU was on life support after Justice League, and this film delivered in a massive way. Well done. And you know, that's the thing. Winning cures everything. You know, you can be on a bad streak like that. All you need is something like a Venom. All you need is something like an Aquaman to come out. And even if your franchise is hurting, whatever, a big win changes a lot of things. It changes your confidence. Most importantly, it changes perception. It changes perception. And today, the perception of the DCEU is now much better and much different than it was 2 months ago. That's what winning does. So absolutely congrats to James Wan. And most importantly, they deserved it. It's a good movie, and they really deserve this type of win.
It's going to be interesting, though, to see how that's going to affect Captain Marvel. Like, is Captain
If at
Marvel
all,
now expected to gross $1 billion, or will a first film in an MCU franchise, will 600 million be good? Will 650? Will 700 million? What will Captain Marvel have to gross so it isn't considered a disappointment?
Well, this thing, I think people need to be realistic with Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel, look, I think Captain Marvel is going to do, I said this before, I will say it again. It will do closer to Ant-Man numbers than it will to Black Panther numbers. Because remember, Black Panther had that huge advantage of making his first appearance in Civil War.
Right.
And then have his standalone movie come out. And by the way, before his standalone movie even came out, people got to see him in the trailer for Avengers Infinity War.
Right.
Before Black Panther even came out. This is more of an Ant-Man situation. I believe this is a movie that if this thing crosses 575, 600 million, they will consider, and they should consider, Captain Marvel a big win. If it makes like 375, 400, that's when they got to start scratching their heads and looking back at the drawing board. But I think this one's going to come in around 600 million, maybe north of that. But as long as it gets that, I think they got to be happy with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Zuza Yu writes, "Hi, when will we see Marvel's Ghost Rider?" Well, he's currently an active character in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show.
Yeah.
And by the way, I do not like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, but I liked what they did with Ghost Rider.
I did too.
It's a little more corny, but I dug it. I like the character.
Yeah, I did too.
So when will we see another movie? I don't know. I wouldn't hold my breath.
No. I don't think Ghost Rider fits in with the Marvel Cinematic Universe as it's currently.
Not as it currently exists. And you know,
Maybe Doctor Strange could figure out a way
maybe.
to...
But a couple of buddies of mine who helped introduce me to Anne actually directed the Ghost Rider sequel.
Right.
Which I wanted to like more than I did, but it's not very good. Baby Boy 8603 writes, "Hey, John and Robert, saw A Simple Favor for the first time last night. Great movie. So glad you saw it. A Simple Favor was one, not my top, but one of my most pleasant surprise movies of the year. It looked like a simple little throwaway film. Paul Feig did a tremendous job with it. Mrs. Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, and Pitch Perfect, and Twilight Girl, Anna Kendrick.
Yeah.
Of course, Academy Award nominated actress Anna Kendrick from Up in the Air.
Yes.
Brilliant. It is a movie that changes genres every 15 minutes. So it's such a unique film. I loved A Simple Favor. If you have not checked it, did you get a chance?
Yeah.
Oh, that's where we talked about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, such a good little movie, man.
And look, I'll watch anything that Blake Lively's in too.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the Age of Adeline?
Yes.
I love that movie so much. I'm a sap.
Did you ever see Savages?
Yeah. Oh, yes, I did see Savages. Don Winslow, who wrote the novel that book that the movie's based on, is one of my favorite writers. And man, I liked. It's not as good as the book. I like Savages. A lot of people hated
The
it.
third act kind of fell apart for me,
Yeah.
but overall, I still thought it was a solid. But Blake Lively's great in it.
But she's great.
I
in
loved
it.
her in that.
Oh.
John Durig writes, "If How to Train Your Dragon 3 is better than the first two, could it be in the running for top 5 film trilogies?" Well, we kind of addressed that already, John, right? It's like, yes, look, it doesn't have to be better than the first two. If it's as good as the first two, it has to be in the discussion. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to go any further than that. But I'm going to say at this point, it's at least got to be in the conversation. You can't leave it out of the conversation at that point. Griffith Olendy writes, "Just created this account for sports cards and memorabilia. What's your biggest tip for getting a new channel up and running?" Well, here's the thing, Griffith. I mention this all the time. A number of years ago, I made a 2-hour video called Getting Started in YouTubing, Podcasting, and Blogging, right? Just go on YouTube and search John Campea Getting Started. It'll be the first video that pops up. It's 2 hours long, where I give all my best thoughts. Now, granted, it is 4 or 5 years old now. I do have to update it, but it's still all completely relevant. I give all my thoughts and opinions and tips and philosophies about getting your channel started, some equipment you should use for different price ranges that you have, how much time commitment you have. I just go and check that out, and I hope that you will find it very useful. Franklin Donahue writes, "Hey, John, Happy New Year. Did you see the Kevin Hart interview on Ellen, and what did you think?" No, I did not, but I want to see it.
Yeah,
I'm
I haven't either.
Fascinated to see it. I still think it's a real shame what's happened with that whole situation. It's kind of a commentary of where we are right now, but I would be fascinated to see that interview. Thank you for bringing it up, Franklin, because I didn't even know about it, so thank you for mentioning it. It's now on my radar. I can't think of a good new username, writes, "Stark builds a new suit from a box of scraps in the ship to escape going back to the first Iron Man movie." Here, you know what? You just brought up, I know this is what you're going for here, Franklin. Let me bring up my one pet peeve with the Iron Man character in the MCU now. Obviously, it's always been science fiction and fantasy.
Right.
Obviously. But the first, and to a degree, the second Iron Man movies, they at least try to pretend in such a way that an earthbound electrical engineer with great intellect like a Tony Stark could conceivably make something like this. They try to plant a fingertip in reality. Just
well,
a
the first
fingertip,
Iron Man suit that he makes in the cave just has flamethrowers. It's got shit that he was making it out of that was there.
Yeah.
I believed it.
Powered by a magic thing in his heart keeping him alive.
Right.
Yes, but they kept a fingertip in reality, right? It felt like, okay, in some big stretch of the imagination, you could do that. Iron Man progressively more and more became magic.
Right. Yeah.
It's magic at this
Never
point.
more so than in Infinity War.
Never more so
Man,
than
I
in
can't wait
Infinity
for that
War.
hot toy, let me tell you.
But it's still cool and it's still awesome, and I'm not trashing on it, but it loses a little bit something when Iron Man got completely away from even being, by a stretch of the imagination, 1% believable, to just being, now it's just wizardry and witchcraft.
Right.
Now it's just magic. How do we explain it? Say nanotech. That explains everything. Nanotech explains everything. But whatever. It was still super awesome and cool. It made for a great fight with Thanos at the end, so I'm not going to complain too much. Final question of the day. And don't worry, guys. All the rest of you who sent in Super Chat questions will be addressed this week in companion videos. We've just run out of time for today. But if you sent in a question, don't worry, guys. Your questions will get addressed in a video this week. Keep your eyes open for the next companion video. All right. The final question we're going to get to live here today comes to us from TooneyTube, who writes, "I had a discussion. Somebody said remakes and reimaginings are two different things. I disagree. A remake could be everything, the same movie with a new cast or something completely different, like The Fly." I completely agree with you, Toonie. It's all semantics. And if different people will have a different thought and a different definition of what is a remake. Some people say remake. Some people say reboot. Some people say reboot or a requel instead of sequel. They'll say a requel. Some people will say reimagining and blah, blah. And look, there is no standard definition of what any of those things mean. So really, they all mean the same thing to a greater degree. Like I said, one individual, a reboot and a reimagining might be two different things, but to another person, they're not. And there's nothing definitive about it. So there's really no winning that argument. How do you see those things, Robert?
Well, I agree. I mean, a remake look, David Cronenberg's The Fly is a total reimagining of the original Vincent Price version of The Fly. Is it a reboot of The Fly? I don't think it's a reboot. It's just it's a different take. John Carpenter's The Thing is much closer to the original story, Who Goes There, than the original The Thing was. Right. Now, it's a remake and it's also a reimagining, but like you said, it's semantics. I mean, it's all the same thing. I mean, a reboot, J.J. Abrams' 2009 Star Trek, it goes back and retells stories about Kirk, Spock, and McCoy set in an alternate universe. But is it a remake? Is it a reimagining? It's both of those things.
Yeah. So I mean, it really all depends.
Semantics.
It is. You're right. It's tomato. I mean, it's. You can never win that argument because there is no standard definitive answer. Everybody will have a different idea about what it's like trying to argue with somebody with what is a spoiler.
Or how about that Infinity War ends on a cliffhanger, which it does not.
It does not. Definitive War ends. It's just not the heroes who win. That's the difference. It did not end on a cliffhanger. It just ended. Period.
Yes.
And now they're going to do another chapter. So there you go. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and helping us kick off 2019 in a spectacular way. Always awesome to have you guys here. Don't forget, guys, answer today's question of the day. Do you think they're ever going to get around to actually doing shooting a Batman movie in 2019. As of right now, there are 3,000 responses and still holding the exact same ratio. 30% of you are saying yes, they'll start shooting a Batman movie this year. 70% of you are saying no. We're going to keep that up for another 22 hours. We'll visit the results of that yesterday. I want to, of course, thank my cohort today, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, by the way, great stuff you put out online on the Axonar stuff. That was wonderful to check out.
Oh, wow.
Where can people find you online?
Well, thank you for that, by the way. You can find me online on Twitter. I'm at BurnettRM. You can find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or you can go to my YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and I'm doing a lot of live chats, and also my website, theburnettwork.net, is all one word.
And you guys can, of course, just follow me on Twitter, simply at John Campea. That'll do it for me. For Guy, special thanks and Happy New Year to fact-checker Jonathan, Ray over there, and you guys at home. We'll be back again tomorrow. Don't forget to join us then. My name is John Campea, and until next time, guys, bye-bye.